Hi, I'm Becky Boggus. I'm full-time MSW faculty at GCU, and I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes today about probability sampling. In order to understand probability sampling, we first have to understand what a population, a sampling frame, and a sample are. So the population is the most broad of these categories. The population is a whole social work topic that you're interested in that impacts humans' ability to flourish. This would be things like poverty, substance use dependency, child abuse. The sampling frame is every person within that population whom you have the ability to contact their records or implement a service for. And then a sample would be within that. These are the people within your sampling frame that you are going to have the direct intervention to try to positively impact an outcome and then measure that impact. So let me give you an example. The sampling frame, if you are a school social worker who's trying to combat chronic absenteeism by engaging families and adding support to students, would be the list of every student who attends the school where you work. The sample would be the 30 students that are going to get those added supports while you measure their absentee rates. The process of moving someone from the sampling frame, that larger group, to the sample that's going to get the intervention, that's a process called sampling. It's selecting the participants who are going to get the targeted intervention to impact their quality of life and their functioning on the topic that you're measuring. The type of sampling that we're talking about today is called probability sampling, and this is where every participant in the sampling frame has an equal chance of being selected, and they all know about that. It's randomized who is selected, whereas with non-probability sampling, which is a different video in this series, you're selecting people intentionally, and everyone does not have the same chance as being selected. The reason that probability sampling is important statistically is because it gives you this ability to make inferences from the sample population to the larger population that you're trying to target, because your population and your sample is representative. It is randomized who is selected, and so you can actually say, if this intervention works with these students, it would work for anyone in this school at a statistically significant rate. Meaning, we know this intervention works and it would work with anyone in the frame. That's really important. The first type of sampling that we're going to talk about today is called simple random sampling. This is the most basic form of probability sampling, and it is where you use a number generator on a computer to input everybody's information on the sampling frame. And you might tell the computer, I want 10% of the entire sampling frame. So out of 500 students, populate 50 for me. And those 50 would be the ones that get the intervention. There's no rhyme or reason to it. It is completely random. Everyone has the same chance of being selected for intervention. The next type is systematic sampling. Systematic probability sampling cuts down on some minor errors or bias that can happen in simple random sampling, because it ensures that everyone in the entire sampling frame is intermittently chosen. What can sometimes happen in simple random sampling is if you lay out all of your clients from A to Z or chronologically by service date, you might, in some cases, get more clients for your intervention in your sample that are from like the front of the alphabet and none from the end, or older service dates and not as many new. And systematic cuts down on that. It is the process of selecting every nth participant. So you might say every third participant, every fifth participant throughout the entire frame. This ensures that the entire frame is in a pattern throughout the entire frame, so that people are taken. And so you do get a really good mix of participants from the front to the back of the alphabet, from old service usage dates to new service usage dates, or however they're laid out within the frame. The other type of probability sampling that we will discuss today is stratified sampling. This is mostly used when you have a really diverse sampling frame. When people are grouped by one demographic trait that is relevant to your research question and can impact the outcome. So if you are working as a school social worker and you have a really diverse student population in terms of race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, you might group everyone by those categories and then do random sampling from within those strata. So you might say, I'm going to group everyone in strata according to race, and then I want the computer to select 10 from each strata. This ensures a diverse sample that will be representative of the sampling frame, and you can make those inferences about your intervention's effectiveness to the entire population that you are targeting. The last type that we will talk about today is called cluster sampling. Cluster sampling is mostly, not exclusively, but mostly used across large geographic areas. This is when you are trying to intervene in a large population, say an entire country. You want to understand how an intervention would work at all public schools across the United States. But a school on the West Coast is really different than a school on the East Coast. And so what you would do is, rather than selecting individual participants in your random sampling, you would select an entire group of participants. So you can see here that you would cluster the population, typically by area, and then randomly select entire groups. This, again, it's another way to ensure that your sample that you are measuring for the effectiveness of your intervention is diverse and it reflects the entire population that you are representing. If you have any other questions, please reach out to your professor, and I hope this is helpful, and I wish you all the very best of luck as you are engaging in the research process.